So here we go. We got the Midsummer Classic, the Travers, and the late pick 5. It's races 9 through 13. It's a mandatory payout. It's all stakes, and it takes place on Saturday's card at the Spa on August 24th. The first leg is the Sword Dancer. It's the 9th race. It's a grade 1, running a mile and a half on the inner turf for 4-year-olds and up. And kind of disappointing, fairly small field, but I'm not surprised in some respects. I mean, when you consider what Charlie Appleby is bringing to the table, I'm really surprised there's no Chad Browns to speak of, and that would be highly unusual for a graded stakes race, particularly at Saratoga on the turf. But to me, this is a 2-horse race, and they're both trained by the same guy, so take your pick. Measured Time and Silver Knot. I landed on Measured Time for one simple reason. In the Manhattan at the Spa last time, he toyed with that field, and I believe Soldier Rising and Far Bridge were both in it. And he was not bothered by them in the slightest. He might as well have been out on the track by himself. When he decided to turn it on in the stretch, he just separated himself from that field lickety-split. Really was impressive to me visually. And, he's going to be on the front end, and for good reason. I think he's just the best horse in this race. Now, the only horse that can give him a challenge is Silver Knot. Now, Silver Knot in the Bowling Green set the track record for a mile and 3/8 at 2:11. And again, that was another field. I think Soldier Rising was in that one. And, they were all playing for second. It was no contest. Just much, much better. Wasn't challenged. Ran as he pleased and got the job done. So, to me, it's really kind of one of those things like which one do which Godolphin horse is going to win this race? Because none of these other horses are even close. Again, from a visual standpoint, I really liked what I saw a little bit more from Measured Time. But certainly Silver Knot is the only other alternative in this race. And I'm just hoping maybe I'll get a little bit better value on Measured Time because of the impressive nature of Silver Knot's last race. So pick your Appleby and be done with it. Move on to the next leg. Leg 2 is the Ballerina. It's a grade 1. It's the 10th race on the card. Run at 7 furlongs for 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. And this is a really good field. Certainly led by Vava, who's just a beast at 7 furlongs. Won the last race pretty well against a good field. And Vava's the horse to beat without a doubt in this one. However, I'm going to try to beat her. You've got on the front end Society and Money's Gold, and I think Money's Gold tried to rate last time. I think they're going to have her up on the lead, hence the move to Johnny Velasquez. We know what he can do with a horse on the front end, but Society and Money's Gold sort of suffer from the same problem. They seem to wilt late in graded stakes, and Society has a little bit better record at 7 furlongs, but most of the time that's when she is uncontested. That's not going to be the case here. I think it's Money's Gold is really going to give her all she can handle on the front end, and I think setting those for 22 and 45 fractions, maybe even faster than that. Society probably can handle it a little bit better than Money's Gold, but I don't see either one of them being late considering what's coming from behind just off of them. Exceed, to me, is a horse who I think Chad Brown has finally figured out. This one is disappointed in the past, but I think they've got it right now. They've got her at 7 furlongs. That's a good distance, and I think the right one for Exceed. She'll need to take another move forward, but it's certainly possible. And I think Exceed at 8-1 offers some really good value. And if you're looking for an upset candidate, I think Exceed fits the bill. Should be prominent in this race. I just kind of like a couple others a little bit better, and they're no surprise. Vava and Scylla. I'm going to go with Scylla in this one for a couple reasons. Number one, in our sequence, everybody's going to single Vava, I think, without a doubt, or they're going to be using prominently. But Scylla, to me, number one, offers better value. But secondly, Bill Mott is 58% and 75% in the money when going route to sprint in graded stakes. The last time he did it at Saratoga was with Cody's Wish, moving from a mile to 7 furlongs, I think it was, a couple of years ago. Scylla has demonstrated some really classy potential. She has been very solid in graded stakes, most notably. Our last one was the Clement Hirsch, where she couldn't quite hold off Adair Manor, and that's nothing against her at all. I think Scylla moved a little early. It made sense to me, trying to build up some steam to hold off Adair Manor coming late, and just wasn't quite able to do it. Now you cut back in distance, where I think Scylla has a stamina edge over these others. You note that Vava was not effective going 2 turns. So I think Scylla offers some really good value, and I think is ready to run another good one. And I'm looking for Scylla to upset the apple cart here. Of the late runners, I think Positano Sunset will certainly run a good race. She's positive at Saratoga and at the distance, but I just kind of think Chi-Town Lady has a better chance to get into the money, and maybe with a little bit of luck can blow it open and upset the apple cart. But Saratoga is not very kind to closers. It hasn't been. And but I like Chi-Town Lady mainly because she's coming off a mile effort, cutting back route to sprint. It's always a good angle. And she is in good form, and won the test here at 7 furlongs a couple of years ago. So at 20-1, I think you're getting some really good value on Chi-Town Lady, but more likely to round out the bottom of your exotics. So in sum, the top 3 for me are Exceed, Vava, and Scylla, but I'm going to go with Scylla as the upset. Bill Mott on a big stakes day, and I think the angle works for me, and I think Scylla has the stamina to outlast Vava, and so we'll try to beat the big favorite. Leg 3 of the Travers Pick 5, all graded 1 stakes races, you gotta love that, is the Forego, is our third leg. It's the 11th race on Saturday's card at Saratoga, running at 7 furlongs for 4-year-olds and up. And really, if you look at this field, this is a grade 1 in name only. I don't think we have anybody who's demonstrated they're a true grade 1 horse as of yet. Of the ones in this field, I think Gun Pilot, to me, represents the one with the greatest upside. Since moving back to 1 turn, this one has been very solid in his 4-year-old campaign. Being a gun runner, fully expected that he would get better with age. And he's just been very solid. The last race, he maybe needed one. Ran a pretty good third, but just seemed to was lacking a little bit. I think now rested that he should rebound, and Steve Asmussen at Saratoga in sprints is always a really good bet. To me, he represents some solid value at 3-1 as the second choice, and of this group, I think he's the one that has the most upside. So I'm going to go with Gun Pilot. Twisted Ride is just an ultra consistent horse coming up from Philadelphia from Michael Moore. Last race was at 6 furlongs, and if he had another panel, I think he had a really good chance of winning the race. He's in excellent form right now. Doesn't necessarily have to have the lead. He may inherit it from this group because there's not really a true front runner, save for maybe Mulligan. But I just really like this horse. I think he's a hard knocker, and in this field that is not replete with great graded stakes performers, I think Twisted Ride at 15-1 offers some really good value, and I look for him to be prominent in this race. Full Screen from Mark Cassie, who's had just a really great meet at Saratoga. You can't leave him off, I don't think. Ran a really nice allowance race last time, and this would certainly be a step up. But again, the field is not the greatest, so I think he's a pretty good fit here. What I'm concerned about, excuse me, more than anything else is when he runs a great Brisnet figure, a career high like he did last time, he has had a little bit of a letdown in his start following, but he has put together a couple of 90-plus efforts consecutively, so it's not that big a concern. And he does have Dylan Davis aboard, who's just had a phenomenal meet. And I think at 20-1 in this field in particular, full screen is one that you have to consider very seriously. I just wonder about the top end and whether or not his best would be good enough in this race. Baby Yoda, I'm not really excited about this horse. He is a horse for the course without a doubt. And he ran huge his two back, but did follow it up with a pretty disappointing effort. And when the stakes were raised a little bit, it's hard to overlook a Bill Mott horse on a big stakes day, and this one is certainly capable, and particularly at 7 furlongs, of running lights out, and he could very well win this race if he brings his best effort, like he does quite often at Saratoga. So at 8-1, I think he's one you certainly have to consider. Now, just talk about Mulligan, the favorite. Really, the issue to me are the odds. He's had 3 nice races in a row, that's true. But those fields were a little suspect, and this one kind of is too. So, maybe it's not that big a deal for him to move up into a Grade 1 stakes race, given the talent level of this field. But to me, a short price in this field is really not where you want to go. And a horse like Mulligan's going to beat me here, and I'll be fine with it. He can win this race. He sure can. But I think Gun Pilot has a lot more upside, and I think he has the potential to take over what is a pretty weak sprint division. Finally, we'll look at Cagliostro. Now, this is a horse for Cherie DeVoe, who is cutting back to a sprint, and you have to love this horse. He's got great grit. He brings it every time. He tries really hard. He just always seems to be not quite good enough. And how many times have you seen this horse get into the stretch, he gets the lead, and then somebody's a little better? But he certainly has the stamina, and that may be the difference in a race like this. And I think he's one that you can't overlook. I think the price of 9-2 is square, and I just like Gun Pilot a little bit better. That's really what it comes down to. This is a wide open race. There are a lot of different ways to go, but I think these horses represent the best in a race that, because we've got some short prices in the other legs, I think this is a race that you can confidently spread, and you're certain that I think you're going to get some value in this one, and hopefully we'll get Gun Pilot home, but we're also going to spread with some other alternatives, and hopefully this will fatten up the ROI on the pick 5. Leg 4 is the 12th race on Saturday's card at Saratoga. It's the Alan Jerkins Memorial, the Grade 1 run at 7 furlongs for 3-year-olds only. And a nice homage to the Chief, Alan Jerkins, great New York trainer, Hall of Famer. We take a look at this field, and it is pretty deep. There's a lot of ways to go, without a doubt. But I look at this field, and to me, we've got to look at Grade 1 caliber horses and ones with back class. And I think that there aren't too many ways to go. Speakeasy, while not being a Grade 1 horse yet, his 2 races, to me, have demonstrated that this horse has a ton of ability and is very eligible to take a move up, and I don't think the Grade 1 field is going to bother him. His last race, coming off a long layoff, where prior in his maiden he had demonstrated a lot of ability. Apparently there was an injury, so he had to take some time. But coming back in his last race, they had to nudge him along to start it, but once he got going, he blew that field away, and that to me is a horse that, with a race under him, is awful dangerous in this spot, particularly at 8-1, and I like him a lot in this spot. However, I'm going with domestic product, and the reason being is that he is back at one turn where I've always thought he belonged. He did show quite a bit of talent in faring pretty well in two-turn races. But one turn after that Dwyer, granted, there were only 4 horses, but he blew that field away, and I think it demonstrated that that's exactly where he wants to be. So he's in a great spot here. And note that Flavian Pratt has ridden quite a few horses in this race, and yet he chose domestic product. Now, that may be a contractual thing. I'm not overly certain, but I do think it speaks a great deal to the chances of domestic product, and so I like him a lot in this spot, particularly at 9-1. I think you're getting some really good value. A couple others to think about. Prince of Monaco, you know, he had a lot of trouble at the break coming off the bench in the Woody Stevens, but go back and look at that field. Not the greatest of Woody Stevens. A lot of those horses have come back and not run well at all. And save for Bookham Deno and Prince of Monaco, it didn't come out to be a really very good field for a Grade 1. So that and the fact that Bob Baffert's horses have not been running well outside of California. And even in California, you look at Arabian Night and then National Treasure in the Whitney. I just wonder what's going on with that barn. I don't know. It just seems like there's maybe there's a virus or something. I don't know. Adair Manor didn't have any problem with the Clement Hirsch, but I just give kind of an odd feeling about Bob Baffert shipping right now. And so I think Prince of Monaco is good enough to run well in this field without a doubt. And certainly, you know, I wouldn't talk anybody out of using to win, but I think he's more of an underneath candidate, and that's where I'm going to use him. Timberlake has the route to sprint angle, and it was a bit of a surprise that he even ran in the Haskell, as Brad Cox had been publicly noted as stating he thought he was more of a one-turn horse. Having been awful keen in his races on the Derby Trail, I don't think that's a big surprise. So this should be a really good fit for him, and I think Timberlake makes a lot of sense here. I just kind of like domestic product and Speakeasy a little better, but I think he's certainly one to use underneath. Now, one that I know everybody goes, what about Bookham Dano? Why are you leaving him off? Well, I'll tell you why. First of all, the Woody Stevens, again, has not come back to be that great a race. And he did win convincingly, without a doubt. But note that his race following up in a Jersey bred race where he should have dusted that a 4-horse field, he had some trouble. Now, that may be a little hangover from the Woody Stevens, that's true. But his connections are also thinking about running him at Charlestown. Why would you consider another race when you've got a Grade 1 stakes race from a horse who's running at a distance that he loves and is a Grade 1 winner at it? So I have some real concerns about that. And for that reason, I'm going to let him go. He is a Jersey bred. You know, I mean, they can have a good horse. That's true. But I just wonder why would you even think about taking him out of this race? So I'm just going to go ahead and let him go. I just think maybe we've got some better value and some better options in here. So to me, I want to keep this. I mean, you could certainly spread pretty deep in this race. And I will note, world record, if you watch the track on Travers Day and you do see that there's some inside speed, then maybe you throw world record back in the mix. But keep in mind, in his last race, he was taking advantage of what was a rail speed bias at Saratoga that day. And, you know, and he ran off with it. Jefferson Street had some trouble at the break and was a little too far back to get up there. But, excuse me, I just have some concerns of whether or not world record can replicate that effort or build on it. He has been getting better with every start. There's no doubt about that. I just have some concerns about a bias-aided effort at a first try at a graded stakes. So, in sum, domestic product to me, I think, has the back class and the talent. I think Chad Brown would like nothing more than to take down the Alan Jerkins on Travers Day. So we're going to go with him. And then Speakeasy, I really like as well. I think they are the two prime contenders in this race, but Prince of Monaco and Timberlake, worthy contenders as well. But I just kind of like them for underneath, not quite as much as the top two I mentioned. So that's the Alan Jerkins, and we'll see what happens. It's a lot of ways to go. It's a really good betting race. So we've arrived at leg 5, the Midsummer Classic, the Travers. It's a grade 1, it's the 13th race on the Saturday card at Saratoga. It's running a mile and a quarter for 3-year-olds, and this promises to be a really great race. You look at this field, and there's some standouts for sure. If we take a look at them, Dornoch to me is the one to beat. And I'm picking Dornoch to win this race for a couple of reasons. Number one, more than anything else, you just have to love the grit and the fight in this horse. Horses come and meet him in the eye, and he turns them away. Whether he can do it for a third straight time, that remains to be seen, but I'm banking that he's going to bring it. And if he does, I think they're all playing for second. He has the chance to be the first horse since Point Given, and the only other horse to win the Belmont, the Haskell, and the Travers, and I think he's poised to do it. I don't think there's going to be nearly as much pace as some people have posited. I think Unmatched Wisdom is a little slow out of the gate, and I think stepping up in class after a Curlin that was an okay field, not great, is a big challenge. We'll see how much talent this horse really has, but I think if he does break slow, that may do him in. And maybe he can rate, but I don't see him being there late. Batten down, I think, is Belmont is 2 for 15, third off the layoff in graded stakes for 3-year-olds at Roots. And I think Batten down maybe ran his best race in the Jim Dandy. He ran a great race, balls out all the way, but he wasn't good enough, and I think that's going to lead to a regression here, so I don't like Batten down. So maybe he'll be a little sharp. Horses who tend to regress tend to be that way early on, and that may contribute to some pace, but I don't think it's enough. It's certainly not going to be hot, and I don't think. And so I think the pace will be moderate. You know, I just think it'll be maybe a little bit above average, but probably moderate. That's not going to bother Dornoch, and I think he'll be there late. Now, Torpedo Anna, of course, is the story, the filly going against the boys, and it's a great story. And listen, if she wins, I'll be happy because it does promote the sport, and it's good for the sport. That said, I don't think Torpedo Anna can win this race, and the reason is she has won her races against the fillies on talent and talent alone. She's just better than all the other fillies in the division, without a doubt. The thing I've always knocked about Torpedo Anna, and it has got me in trouble, I admit, is her late fraction. She tends to run with high cruising speed for the first 2 fractions, and that's what leads her to beating the 3-year-old fillies, because once they get to the stretch, she's rolling and the others are already backing up. But her late fraction has never been very good comparatively. And for that reason, now you're stretching her out to a mile and a quarter, a distance that she probably can handle, but it's the way she runs. Now you're putting her against horses who are as talented as she is, comparable talent, you know, Fierceness, Dornoch, Sierra Leone. And can she hold all of them off and win this race? I don't think so, especially when I see a late fraction like I'm seeing from her. So, can she get third, the bottom of the try, on talent alone, and maybe second, possibly? But I just can't see it. I just can't see her. I don't see that gulf in class and talent that tells me she's that much better than this battle-tested group. So, to me, Torpedo Anna is not a win candidate, but you want to put her at the bottom of the trifecta, I can certainly see it. Fierceness. We all know what the issue is, right? Good race, bad race. Todd Pletcher, I thought, said a lot when he said, we found that if we give Fierceness a little more time between races, we get an optimum effort. So what happens? They put her in the Travers off less than a month off. And you know Mike Rapoli made that decision, particularly with Mindframe being sidelined. This horse is good enough to win this race. I don't think a mile and a quarter is a problem. If you look at the Jim Dandy, he was actually pulling away from Sierra Leone just a little bit, but enough to tell me that a mile and a quarter wouldn't be a problem. The problem is that the time between the races, that's what bothers me more than anything. And I've been right on Fierceness quite often. And when I've known that she was, or thought she was going to run a good race, I've been validated. But this time, I don't think it's going to happen. And I just can't see it. So I think I'm going to let Fierceness go, particularly at 3-1. I just don't like the price, and I just don't like the setup here. I will say this: I do like the outside post. I think that's ideal for him, and I know Johnny V can put Fierceness in a really good position, and he can rate. He doesn't have to have the lead. We've seen that, but I just worry about the time between starts, and that to me is what spells doom for Fierceness. So I will let Fierceness go. Sierra Leone to me is the logical second choice to me, and he could very well win this race. We've heard people talk about the pace and, that this is an ideal setup. He doesn't need the pace to win this race. He doesn't. He's proven it time and again. He brings it every single time. The problem is, of course, he's his own worst enemy a lot of times with the way he runs. If he can just stay straight, he's got a very good chance to win this race. That may be a bit of a tall order, but he's too damn good not to consider. And if he brings his A game, which I think he will, he can win this race. He would be my second choice. In fact, I'd go so far as to say he's more of a 1A to Dornoch. I think you're going to have a Remsen rematch. I think you're going to have Dornoch and Sierra Leone battling it out in the stretch, and Sierra Leone may get the better of Dornoch with two really big efforts from Dornoch. Maybe that takes a little bit out of him, but those two, to me, are the ones to beat. They've got the class, they've got the grit, and I think they're the two to beat. Corporate Power, I'm going to throw in there. He couldn't get to Unmatched Wisdom in the Curlin, and I think that speaks volume. The horse was kind of all over the place in the stretch, and I think there's still some maturity there. He ran his career high in a restricted stage and couldn't win it, and now he's stepping up to a grade 1. I don't see him as a valid win candidate. However, his running style probably can keep him in the race, because I do see a few of these backing up. So at the bottom of the trifecta, absolutely not a win candidate. So this is going to be a really great race. I'm really looking forward to that duel down the stretch for Dornoch and Sierra Leone, a duel in the sun, as it were. But I think Dornoch, to me, has demonstrated when he's met in the eye, he's got something left, and I think he's going to do it again. So Dornoch to win the Travers, Sierra Leone a very close second. So we look at our ticket for the late pick 5. We're going to keep it short. I think in the leg 1, in the Sword Dancer, you've got 1 or 2 Applebee's. I think it's either measure of time, or Silver Knot. I like Measure of Time, so I'm going to go with him. We're going to single number 5 in leg 2. In the Ballerina. In leg 3, it's a little bit of a spread. I think we can afford to do that. We're going so short in the other legs. So we like 1 to win number 1 to win the race in the Forego. But I think 2, 4, and 8 are also possibles here. So you can go a little shorter in that one. I'm not sure about a couple of them. If you look at my individual stakes posting on the Forego, you'll get some more detailed analysis about that. And then in the Jerkins, which I think is a really good betting race, there are a lot of ways to go. Watch the track. Make sure there's not a bias towards the rail inside for speed. If there is, you throw world record in this race, but we're going to go with 2 and 3 as the horses, I think, who can win this, the best, most logical candidates. And then and with 3 as my pick to win it. And then finally in the Travers, as I mentioned, we'll go with Dornoch to win, but also Sierra Leone. So that's a really tight ticket, really skinny. It's a $16 ticket on a $1 base. If you want to buffer out in leg 4 in the Jerkins a little bit, I can understand it. But to me, we've got some fairly good chalk in this race, so why spend a lot of money? Let's just plant our flag and go for it. I'll probably go a little heavier in this ticket than just at $1. But if we hit, we're going to get rewarded. If not, we're not out a whole lot. So should be an excellent sequence. Really looking forward to it. I will be at Saratoga on Saturday. So if you see me, come on by and say hello. Hard to miss. I'm a pretty big guy. And I'm looking forward to it as well. So I hope this helps you with your own wagering strategy and analysis, and wish you the best of luck as always. Can't wait for Saturday. I'm sure you can't either. I'll talk to you soon. And until then, be well.